The Bitcoin Group, the American original. For over the last 10 seconds, the sharpest Satoshis, the best Bitcoins, the hardest cryptocurrency talk. We'd like to welcome our panelists, Ben Ark from LN Bits,
Hello, good evening, all.
Dan Eve, the Crypto Raptor,
I want to break free.
Josh Shigala from thestandard.io.
I come in peace.
And I'm Thomas Hunt from the World Crypto Network. Moving on to issue one. Issue one, Bank of America launches research into cryptocurrencies. The bank, the nation's second largest bank, claimed that Bitcoin is too large to ignore and has begun researching Bitcoin. They believe that crypto-based digital assets could form an entirely new asset class, the analyst said, adding that Bitcoin is important, with a market value of $900 billion. But the digital asset ecosystem is so much more. Tokens that act like operating systems, decentralized applications without middlemen, stablecoins pegged to fiat currencies, central bank digital currencies to replace national currencies, and non-fungible tokens, enabling connections between creators and fans. We've talked about it many times on this show, with myself predicting over and over again that once Bank of America adopts Bitcoin, the others will follow. Ben Ark, have the banks broken? Do they have nothing left except to sit back and admire the beautiful world of cryptocurrency that we have created without their permission and against their wishes?
It's just like free and open source software. When you look at something like Microsoft, they fought it until eventually they just have to. Now they are the biggest, free and open source contributor in the world. And it's the same with these big banks. They fight it, and now they just have to adopt Bitcoin and the ecosystem. But yeah, it is too large to fail. It's extremely bullish. When these, authorities, big institutions, they publicly say positive things about Bitcoin, there's then this ripple effect, and all these other billions, trillions of dollars are now going to pour into Bitcoin because of it. So the Bank of America releasing this statement and imagining a world where things like Bitcoin are just interwoven into general society is extremely bullish for just giving a green flag to all these other companies and businesses and investors. And I mean, most big companies on the planet, they have some R&D into Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. Because it is incredibly useful technology. So it was inevitable. We got there in the end. Well done for calling it out, Thomas, all those years ago. And it's nice just to get to yet another milestone.
Dan, Eve.
Well, if you can't beat them, join them. And there's a lot of people that have started saying it's too beaucoup to ignore. And Bitcoin is growing exponentially. Obviously, it has its little setbacks when Tesla says that they're going to stop accepting it briefly, and all these little funny things, and the market moves because of crazy tweets and stuff. Maybe Bank of America are actually, they were kind of thinking maybe we can do a Tesla and like pump the market. So maybe that's a sign they've just bought heavily, and they were just expecting a bit of a bump. But they've seen JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs and their little blockchain divisions, and they're getting a bit jelly, okay? And they're like, okay, cool. Well, we'll get involved now. But 12 years late to the party. One thing that was quite interesting is that instead of talking about Bitcoin specifically, a lot of the chatter on Twitter was the Ripple army making a savage comeback because of a rumor of like Ripple and Bank of America. So there's like loads of quote retweets and all the articles going, Ripple's coming now. Yeah, Ripple's coming. Bank of America, Ripple. But I doubt it's that. Obviously they're talking about Bitcoin. They're talking about the $900 billion asset that's just about to pump over to a trillion very soon. I think it's Bitcoin doesn't need these kind of like false idols and authoritarian like stamps of approval, but when it does happen, It makes the people that were ignorant to Bitcoin or just didn't want to really research it because it wasn't in their sphere of interest because the banks aren't supporting it. People are now getting more into it. They're reading about it, that it's being put in front of their faces. And specifically by the banks who have previously said ignore it. It's Bitcoin's stupid. It's going to die. It won't last. Blah blah blah. So I think it's overall it's good for it's that kind of seal of approval from the existing awful infrastructure.
Josh Igala.
Well, Bank of America is too big to fail, and Bitcoin is too big to ignore. Really, it says it all, right? But actually, a lot of the clever banks have been looking at Bitcoin for a while. We won at Vaultoro a BBVA award back in 2015 for being innovative and cool. That's one of the biggest banks in Latin America. It's the whole article just reads like a ridiculous farce that they're now giving this sort of like glowing review. Meanwhile, for the years, so many people have had their Bank of America accounts closed because they dared put some money into an asset that is some math. And it's really unfortunate that they've taken this long to say, oh yeah, okay, let's have a look at it. But this is the same thing that happened with the record industry. The record industry really needed to get their ass kicked all over the place. The entire monopoly, let's say. I mean, it was probably a duopoly, but the entire sort of ridiculous system that they had built up over years, where you would have to buy an entire album because you liked one song, and they controlled and really abused the artists for years. And this is the same sort of thing. They had to get their ass absolutely handed to them before they went, okay, internet, you win. Let's relook at our model and try to work something out. And it was only because Apple came along and went, we've got this new thing called the iPod, and we're going to put millions of songs, and you are going to sell them for 99 cents each. And they're like, no. And eventually they went and did it, because you cannot, when the internet comes for your industry, you can't just ignore it. And this is the funny thing about that headline is like, it's become too big to ignore. Like what? As if, right? Your whole point of existence is money. A new money technology comes out and you ignore it for 12 freaking years. That just shows to me how absolutely inept the banking industry is globally. And so, yeah, put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Well, and we heard stories about this too, Josh, from people that worked inside of banks. A friend of mine worked at PayPal, and they said they did a huge project about cryptocurrency, and it was all ready to go, and they did the marketing, and they did all the multiple layers of the thing. And then the bank said, just put it on the shelf, and then they wait and they wait. And I'm sure this happened at many other banks as well, where many people working there saw what we could see from the outside, and they were silenced. And the official report of all these banks was, crypto is poison. Crypto will destroy your account. Crypto is the end of everything. And I agree with go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, and actually, if you look at the statistics for PayPal, ever since they launched cryptocurrencies, their app usage, like eyeballs in apps, has gone up so much that it makes what it used to be like this, and now it's like, because people are so obsessed with the price, they're like, oh, I wonder what my Bitcoin's worth today. Open the PayPal app. And that never happened. They would open the PayPal app only when they needed to pay someone, or when they needed to, actually use it. Now they're looking at it to check the price and to check their value. So it's definitely been worthwhile for PayPal, and it'll definitely be worthwhile for Bank of America.
I agree. It's completely transformational, and it's also obvious. Everyone that's into cryptocurrency knows that as soon as you buy in, you put your $100 in, you change from being a person who's spectating and observing cryptocurrency to a person who has skin in the game. If it's $120, you're excited. If it's $80, you're kind of freaking out. If it's $20, you're really freaking out. And this happens to everyone at different evaluations up and down the line. And now it's happening to these banks. So I want to echo the panel here. I want to say that, yeah, who cares about these banks? I wouldn't let them install Windows on my laptop, but their recommendation is huge. There's lots of people who wouldn't try cryptocurrency who are now like, I guess Bank of America's into it. And they just follow whatever's new in the magazine. They do whatever the new monthly magazine says. And the new magazine says cryptocurrency, DeFi, D-apps, central bank currencies, and even NFTs. So the bank's gone from being, old fuddy-duddy to being very hip very quickly. So it is only a matter of time probably before they offer other services. And it's just amazing to see how far we've gone from a maniac in a Mad Hatter hat talking about Bitcoin to Bank of America saying Bitcoin is important.
But you can see by that article that they're still not innovating. Like they're talking about NFTs as like rare collectibles that they're basically rabbiting the thing that's happening right now. That they're repeating it. They're just saying, oh, this is what's happening. Well, in a banking sense, NFTs are really, really interesting because if we have, say, mortgage-backed securities, you could put them into an NFT, chop it up, repackage them again, and repackage again, and you could trace the mortgage-backed security all the way through different NFTs to the person that's invested in it now. Now, if we look at the 2008 housing crisis, this is exactly what happened, except they weren't in cryptographic proofs all the way. So no one knew who the hell had what property, where property. And there was even court cases where someone went to the bank and said, I'm not paying my mortgage until you prove who owns my mortgage now. And I think they even got their house given to them because they're like, well, you don't have to pay your mortgage until the bank can prove where your mortgage sits. And they're like, we don't know anymore.
But if they wrap up the mortgages into an NFT and then split the NFT up into say 3 bits and then sell those bits on and then they're NFT'd and so on and so on, you would be able to account for the value, but you wouldn't be able to account for who actually owns the value, would you? So it'd be the same, except you'd be like masking. You're still masking who has the original mortgage in there.
On most NFT platforms, you can see who owns the NFT. It's not very, easy or user friendly, but if you click through, just like a blockchain explorer, it will show you which account.
So you could do it in such a way where you could like totally tell where the mortgage came from. Wow, that's cool.
Yeah. As well as percentages, which would be the real advantage, where you could say this percentage, this account owns this percent, that percent. These are the major holders. Because if a major holder sells, that's something you'd want to know.
It would be done in such a way, obviously, with our world, it'd be done in such a way where everyone would have access to it to speculate on it, as opposed to just big financial institutions as well. It's a really interesting idea.
That sounds incredibly fair and even-minded. I don't know if they're going to allow you to do that. Let's move on to the exit question. It's getting harder and harder to think of anything these days, but think of an institution, a company, a bank. Who will come out and accept Bitcoin next? It's almost like a international coming out party, and you've got to name the next winner. Ben Ark.
Crikey, Amazon.
Oh, Amazon, a very good bet. Dan Eve.
I think that Western Union must be quaking in their boots right now, and probably have been for a while. And it would be, they'd be the blockbuster of remittances if they just let Bitcoin slip by them and not actually try to do something and enter the market. So I'm thinking Western Union. It's a logical one to kind of do, I think.
Dan Eve for president of Western Union. He'll Netflix you. He won't let you get blockbustered. Josh Segala, a company, a bank, a business, a corporation, a country. What could it be?
I really think that Google should probably do it because they're internet native. They were born on the internet. They made all their money internet. They have an advertising business. Bitcoin, especially Lightning, would be fantastic for advertising as you sort of stream money into certain pipelines. But I don't think they're going to do it because they're too arrogant. And so I think maybe Microsoft could try to lift Bing up and being a little bit more innovative instead of just constantly copying the rest of the industry and saying, oh, now we also have maps. Maybe they could, actually innovate and look at this 12-year-old technology, which is starting to get pretty old in internet terms, and mature, and actually implement it. And what I'd really find important, any of these big companies that implement it now, they need to jump straight into Lightning Network. It's not good enough just to accept on-chain transactions. It's not good enough anymore. They need to step it up and actually innovate, actually put some money towards R&Ding that stuff.
Well, Ben took my answer with Amazon, but I'm going to go right back against Josh with against that. I'm going to go Apple Computer. I want to see Tim Cook up there during the keynote, and I want to hear his nasally voice saying things like, with Apple, you can stream Satoshis while you watch podcasts. You can design photos and get paid for the process. You can make NFTs right from the application. It's just that easy. It's time, Apple. It's time to go Bitcoin. Apple famously banned Bitcoin wallets from the Apple Store years ago. Bitcoiners destroyed their phones, even one man with a sniper rifle in a fantastic video, because they couldn't get wallets anymore. Apple changed their mind. They let the wallets back in. It's been a long time. This is a creative company. It's for creative people. They're even talking about putting the camera card port back on the laptop just for the good of the creatives. Why not help the creatives accept and send money? You've already got an Apple wallet. Add a Bitcoin tab. Suddenly you're competing with Jack at Square. You're competing with Jack again at Twitter. You're competing with the other Jack at Strike. And you're even competing with Brian at Coinbase. Apple, this is your chance. Apple for Bitcoin. That's what I'm going with. Moving on to issue 2. Issue 2. Has anyone seen Tether's billions? A wild search for the US dollar supposedly backing the stablecoin at the center of the global cryptocurrency industry, and in the crosshairs of US regulators and prosecutors. We've been talking about this for years. Nobody ever thought Tether was backed by anything. At one point, they did prove their accounts, but it was a snapshot. It wasn't a live proof. It was like Ocean's 11. It could have been a completely different video. And then they went on and just kept making more Tether and selling more Tether. And everyone in the cryptocurrency said, hey, that Tether's not so good. But the people who trade, they need that Tether. They need to go in and out of Bitcoin and altcoins and into a US dollar backed thing. And they chose Tether. But now Bloomberg Businessweek has written a long article about Tether. And we're going to Dan Eve. Dan, what's going on with Tether? Do you think they're going to find those billions of dollars?
Well, I read somewhere that they had a there's a presentation with a pie chart in, so that and it shows that 30 billion was in commercial paper. So that's proof, right? They've got a pie chart. That's half of it, right? It's now what, 68 billion market cap. So yeah, that's nearly half. I'll take the word from it. I think the rest is backed by thoughts and prayers. Hashtag thoughts and prayers, of course. No, I don't know. At the end of the day, it's become kind of synonymous a bit with Bitcoin pumps, because when tethers are printed, Bitcoin seems to do pretty darn good. But that's when you think about the breakdown of the logic, if it's the Tether bank or the Tether not bank that are taking in fiat money and giving people tethers so that they can then go and buy Bitcoin, then it makes logical sense that if they have a massive influx of money, that's because they're getting capital in, which is allowing them to print tethers, and when they're giving those tethers to people, they're going out and buying Bitcoin. So I think that kind of makes sense. What they mentioned as well in that article was about the not bank run, right? The Fed is kind of scared that there may be a not bank run if everyone suddenly freaks out and starts to try and withdraw their tethers, and there's an issue where there's obviously not enough fiat money to actually cover that. But if you think about the logistics of that and how much is like sat on exchanges and in like decentralized exchanges, normal exchanges, people have got orders in. That would have to be quite a huge pull out happening. And I can't even think of the logistics of all of that coming out, unless it's they really haven't got sod all to back it. But what was quite interesting, that article said about Janet Yellen summoning the chair of the Federal Reserve, and it made me think of her summoning a demon, a money printing demon. She's summoned the demon of the Federal Reserve, and he's got this infinite amount of money. So we kind of we mock the Fed for having their infinite amount of money, but obviously on the other side, the Fed are mocking Tether.
Infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve.
That's an infinite amount of cash. But what's significant about Tether and these other stable coins is that they often trade much higher volumes than their actual market cap. So even right now, the market cap's 68 billion and it's generated $81 billion of volume. So in terms of the usage of these currencies, these cryptos, the stablecoin cryptos, they're being heavily used. They're very integral to the general system. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, because it is just a digitized fiat. I don't know. It's anyone's call, but I don't know. I think ultimately it's a very kind of private offshore company. We'll never really know unless they do some sort of proof of funds thing. Maybe someone will try and trigger a proof of keys run on like Trace Mayer, with a proof of keys. Maybe someone will try that with Tether and be like, oh, on October 31st, we're going to do a proof of Tether run. Everyone pull your Tether and try and, and then Halloween, everything goes crazy. And, Freddie, I was going to say Freddie Mercury comes back, but Freddie from hell, whatever it is, from Freddie Nightmare on Elm Street, or Freddie Mercury, either way, start singing at people. But I don't know. Freddie May. But I think let them get on with it. Let them print more tethers if it's going to pump Bitcoin.
Second coming of Freddie Mercury, yes. Also, Dan's virtual bank run has me picturing It's a Wonderful Life, but there's no one to go to and to complain to. Oh, why your money isn't here? It's in Fred's wallet. It's in Jeff's. It's in Joe's. It's not here. And Josh Agala, they say 1 tether equals $1. Would you buy that for $1?
I certainly would not. Look, there's multiple things here. The biggest problem isn't that Tether doesn't have the money. The biggest problem is that we don't know if they have the money. This is, for me, the hardest thing about Tether is that we don't know. I mean, what a ridiculous thing is that we have now a system that JP Morgan Chase have said that it's up there with BlackRock in terms of size of fund. Yet we don't know. We don't know. It's backing this whole system. So Tether has multiple issues. Any of these centralized stable coins do. So you have USDC as well. They have all these issues because once you have negative interest rates hitting America, what are you going to do now? Then the whole business model breaks as well. These centralized stablecoins, they're ludicrous. And really, if Tether went, oh, okay, we'll show you the bank accounts. Here's the bank accounts. Here's how much we've got. But the fact of the matter is, you don't know if the bank is even liquid. So even if they had every single thing in money, you don't know how much the bank is speculating with that, because that's then intransparent. So you've got layers of intransparency. And not only that, you have this dangerous concept where Tether Corporation can just print these fake money, which is actually counterfeiting money in a way, because they're just saying, well, this is equal to $1, like this is $1. And you're like, if I made a $1 note, I would be arrested. But they can just print these out of nowhere and say it's $1, not prove that it's backed by anything. And it's super dangerous, because they can then take that and buy an actual rare number, and people are willing to give them their rare Bitcoins for this thing that they don't know. They're just printing out of nowhere. And we've gone full bump circle. And that's why USD Circle as well is a nonsense as well. Just the same, even though it might be regulated, the big shit's going to hit the fan once the CBDCs come out, these centralized cryptos. these central bank cryptos, because they're going to go, right, we don't like competition. Tether's got to be illegal. USD is going to be illegal. And, they're just going to take over and go, right, we're now doing our thing. PAX and all of these companies. So there's a massive attack vector that's quite sort of esoteric almost. Like it's kind of hard to see for a lot of people. But it's there and it'll happen. And this is why we're building the standard, is to build really a way to have stable coins that are fully backed by crypto or by gold and by real assets stuck in smart contracts that everybody can audit and say that there's more value locked up in these smart contracts than there is stable coins floating around. So this is the beauty of working with cryptographic proofs. You can say, hey, there's more value locked up provably in these smart contracts. Yeah, there's some attack vectors, like if the smart contracts get hacked, they could lose that whole thing. So that's important. But you have that generally in crypto. Wallets, you need to trust the wallet, that the technology is watertight. But let's say something like MakerDAO has been around for 4 years or something like that, or 3, and has never had a hack. It's got billions stuck in there, and you can see the billions of rare numbers in there with less value as stablecoins floating about. This is amazing. This is everything that the gold standard wanted to be, where you have real assets backing the currency. You have money backing currency. And this is also something that people don't understand, money versus currency. So, right now, all we're dealing with is currency. We don't have money anymore. The Federal Reserve doesn't issue money, it issues currency. And people are saving, are spending and toiling their entire life for currency, for units of account. And this is a really, really dangerous thing, because you're saving in something that can be printed because they have infinite money at the Federal Reserve. And so it's really a time now, if you're into crypto, is to get away from centralized stablecoins and start using things like MakerDAO, like the standard once we release it, because these things are true technologies that play out the cypherpunk's dream of having real assets in the crypto sphere, plus privacy, and there's a whole bunch of stuff we still need to work on. But yeah, that's my Tether spiel. On to you, Ben.
I hadn't quite even realized, Josh, but this is a major point for you here, where I think Tether did the quick and easy way. They provided a screenshot of their bank account. They say, we have $350,000. We're going to make 350,000 Tether. And from then on, people just kind of trusted it. They're like, Bank of Tether is cool. It's going to work out. It always works out at $1, Tether. And yeah, like Ben was saying, there's those up and downs, or Dan was saying the up and downs, the craziness in the market with Tether buying and selling. But what you're saying, Josh, whereas Tether just had proof of bank account, the standard, like let's say I had $10,000 in gold, I would put that in the standard. I would get $10,000 in like some kind of token, and then I would like trade those with other people, and those would be forever linked to that $10,000 in gold, which is locked up somewhere, which backs those up. So it's a better system, but it's the kind of thing where the first system's like quick and easy, just print out your bank account. But your system, you actually have to put the value in. So until people lock their gold, until they lock their other assets, there won't be a large amount of a pool of money to function in the way that Tether does with the whole photocopy of the bank account thing.
Yeah, like the standard doesn't allow you to withdraw those gold tokens. They sit in a smart contract, and then you issue fiat pegged stable coins for it, because there's no point having gold tokens, and no one knows how much a bottle of whiskey costs in gold. You know how much it costs in dollars or euros or yen or shekels or pesos, but that's the whole point. But really what that comes down with in terms of physical proof comes down to the other thing that I invented back in 2015, which is the Glassbooks protocol, to allow you to everybody to audit physical storage facilities. And it's a mix of old school auditing companies as well as insurance companies, and you work with those. And this shows, I won't bore everyone with the.
Oh, but that's what people need to get to transparency. And people talked about transparency, and Kraken said they were going to do it. And we've all thought from a Bitcoin address, well, you could look at that and they could say, oh, that's the accounting department and that's the whatever. Yeah. You could go look at all the different divisions. But no one wants to give that up. Everybody wants to hide their books, even though they talk a big talk about crypto.
Absolutely, it's happened in so many startups that have tried to disrupt the donations industry, let's say the charity industry. No charities want to be transparent, amazingly, which is really, really unfortunate, because and there is a legitimate reason for that too, which is people complain when you have to buy a new chair for the office, because that money should be going into the whatever it was that you're paying towards. So they, you know, and then they complain, and then they this and that. But I think there's a middle ground there somewhere. But transparency really is key in terms of the cypherpunk philosophy of transparency for the weak, sorry, for the powerful, sorry, and privacy for the weak. So this is really what's important, and we should keep our laser eyes shouldn't only be on 100K Bitcoin. They should also be on privacy, on transparency for the powerful, and privacy for the weak.
I love what Josh said about the charities don't want to be transparent. They don't want to be audited. It reminds me of a classic story where I was in like the 6th grade play or something, and it was about Thomas Edison. And I had one line, you know, I was a congressman, and Edison had created a vote counting machine. And I had to come in and tell Edison that the problem was, it's not that your machine didn't work. It's that it counted the votes so fast, it left the opposition no time to filibuster. So of course Congress wouldn't buy it. And just in the same way, they don't want the efficiency. They don't want the transparency. They're resisting it. And also I'd say about Josh, better a counterfeit $1. Why not you just get a dollar NFT like Ken Bosak? That would work way better. Sell NFTs for $1. And Ben Ark, we're finally going to you. Schrodinger's Tether. If we look inside the box, would we like what we see? Is the cat alive or dead?
No, we wouldn't. I think anyone who's had any sort of had to manage any sort of custodial solution for any length of time realizes that shit happens, and that you'll have a bug, or someone who's you're employing will run off with some money, or something will happen, and it's very easy to lose the what you say you've got in your coffers to the actual reality of what you got in your coffers. And we're talking about Tether, which was for a long period of time a largely unregulated, unaudited, like shadowy company, having to work in the fringes of society. I mean, it's going back to that previous article, Bitcoin now is too large to ignore. And the problem was, back then they did ignore it, and there was a solution which needed to be had. So people needed to be able to trade and have some sort of stable medium of account to exchange with, but they couldn't do it with the regular normal dollar. They weren't served by the regular normal dollar. So this solution filled that void, a very hacky solution filled that void, because it was ignored. And the best thing to do now is for people just to vote with their feet, and like Josh's solution, like use a solution which is actually auditable and isn't, likely completely unpegged and about to collapse at any single moment. The more you read into Tether, the more you get scared of the possible repercussions. This article, after all, is it's about Janet Yellen of the SEC meeting with some higher ups because they're scared it's actually going to impact the US economy, because the volume of money in Tether has got so large. 69 billion this year, 69 billion in total, but 40 billion just this year has been of Tether has been created. So they claim they have $40 billion in a bank somewhere to account for that money, which is just probably untrue, like 99.9% of a chance that that's complete bollocks. So yeah, just vote with your feet, use a more stable solution, use something which can be audited and has some transparency to it. You'll be doing the future a good service. You won't be pouring more money into this big empty Ponzi scheme of a system which could implode and could have a really negative effect on Bitcoin and the ecosystem, and in fact entire economies. So yeah, absolutely try and use a more legitimate modern service if you can, and as soon as you can. But it's phenomenal. They have like 12 employees and they've got all this wealth, and it's all in these crazy offshore accounts, and it's not being audited and regulated. And then, you know, the claims are spurious. You see these pie charts claiming that they've got money in their bank accounts, and it is quite terrifying. So when the standard.io, Josh, how long do we have to wait? You're muted.
It's one of those things with these smart contracts that are really difficult. You don't want to rush them. It's not like move fast and break things.
And this is the correct answer. See, so Tether, they were the opposite. They were like, right, we need a solution now, and then they just throw something. You know, something came out of the gates. Obviously, the technology wasn't there back then, but you know, someone like Josh, who's been at Vaultoro for years and has been custodian of people's funds, now creating something which is a stable coin, but you know that he's not a custodian of. It's a you know, all wrapped up in smart contracts and all this you know, incredibly complex cryptography. That's something to use and trust and support, rather than something like Tether. So hopefully more traders will start marching with that.
Yeah, I mean, this thing that you can use right now is MakerDAI, and Maker is extraordinary. I really love that project. It's fantastic. It's a big inspiration. And you know, there you can actually see transparently how much stuff is locked in smart contracts and how many DAI are floating around. It's absolutely brilliant. And so stop using Tether, start using these algorithmic stable coins rather, you know.
And MakerDAI as well, it uses arbitrage to keep its peg, so there's opportunity for making money there if you're keeping an eye on.
Yeah, it uses arbitrage. There's a whole bunch of things that you can do there, and it was basically the start. Well, Bitcoin was the start of DeFi, but you know, it really started that whole thing of being able to you know, lend and borrow and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
So Ben advises us to ignore the dead cat in the box. Moving on to the exit question, forced prediction. Dan Eve. The utter and total collapse of Tether will occur within weeks, months, or years.
I don't think it will happen for years, because I think if they're clever little beans, they're using that fiat that they've actually taken in to buy Bitcoin, and they're utterly stinking rich from the Bitcoin. So it will never collapse, because they're absolutely loaded on the corn.
Josh Shigala, weeks, months, or years?
Yeah, I think the first that will fail is regulated stablecoins like USDC, purely because negative interest rates are coming to the US. If you keep an eye on the repo markets and such, you can see that the writing's on the wall. So once you have that, and you have these centralized things, that it's very expensive if you're legit and you're regulated, and the regulators are checking your bank accounts, to actually pay the negative interest rates on all of this savings, all of this money that you have sitting. In fact, it gets so crazy that here in Europe, the voting facilities that we use for the bullion, we talked to the voting facility, and they're saying, man, we've had to tell banks to stop using the voting facilities to store cash, because it's cheaper to store in these large high security voting facilities massive crates of cash than to bring it back to the ECB, the European Central Bank, and store it there, because they charge you the negative interest rate, which is a lot more than the private. So yeah, I think it'll be the regulated ones first, then it'll be you know, I think Tether will have a good shot. Exactly what Dan said. They bought Bitcoin very early on, which was, in my opinion, extremely risky, because they're basically taking all of these clients' funds, which are in a way creditors, not really, because they're buying something. So it's not really a security, because they're not, like, you know, holding it for their clients. It's anyway, it's they bought Bitcoin with it. They were lucky that Bitcoin, they bought at the bottom, and Bitcoin's gone up way more than when they bought it. So they're sitting pretty, and that's why they're being called the BlackRock of the, you know, they're up there with BlackRock. So I think they're sitting pretty. They're already very good at playing regulatory arbitrage. The problem I see is that they're so big that it's extremely hard to just go, you don't like us anymore, Fed? Okay, we're going to shift over to, I don't know, Estonia. yeah, try moving nearly $1 trillion over to Estonia. It's going to be very, very hard. So their size makes it very hard to be nimble, and so that could be the downfall. So yeah, but I do think it's a while from now.
Ben, ARK.
Yeah, I'm a little bit less positive. I think there's probably they've got a lot less money in their coffers. I think the quote was, I mean, for cash, I suppose this is cash which they got access to. The worst day they had, they were able to honor all of the payments or something. That was from the lawyer speaking on behalf in the article. But they'll get. You talk about Bitcoin being banned by the US government or something. Then, if the US are actually scared it's going to have a negative impact on their economy, then these sorts of centralized stablecoin solutions will get phased out through regulation. Not outright banning, because obviously that would just create the run on, that would cause the thing which they're trying to avoid, but they'll be phased out through regulation as Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies come into the light.
Unfortunately, I have to agree with Josh here. The answer is years. Just like Ethereum was too big to regulate, Tether is too big to fail. I think we got the live stream working this week. It seems like Restream It is working. So this is a great time for everybody to give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, just go down and push subscribe. If 100,000 people push that subscribe button, they would give us a little plaque. So we would hang it up behind us on the virtual wall here. So thumbs up, subscribe, and this important message from our sponsors. WCN Clips. Subscribe to the WCN Clips channel and get clips from this show. Christie's now accepts Ether. Miami mayor creates Miami coin. See what we think about Twitter, Bitcoin tipping, and more on the WCN Clips channel. Still a chance for you to be one of the first 100 subscribers to WCN Clips. Moving on to issue 3. The SEC just approved the closest thing to a US Bitcoin ETF you can buy for now. The SEC has approved an ETF that tracks stocks with significant exposure to Bitcoin. These firms hold a majority of their net assets in Bitcoin or derive a majority of their profit or revenue from Bitcoin-related activities. Bow chicka wow wow. This actively managed fund, Volt Crypto Industry Revolution and Tech ETF, was approved on October 5th. Ben, ARK, have they solved all the problems? You can't buy a Bitcoin ETF, but you can buy a ETF made up of Bitcoin company stocks. Everything is fixed.
It's such a bro name, isn't it? And they were saying in the article about how it took them forever, obviously, to get approval, and they were blaming the fact that they've got such a goofy name. But I think in reality, it's obviously the people are just trying to wrap their heads around more of a Bitcoin ETF. But they claim that they're going to invest 80% of their portfolio into Bitcoin revolution companies or something, or revolutionizing Bitcoin companies. So that's great. Hopefully, the Bitcoin infrastructure and ecosystem will get a big pump from that. And I think it's wise, because now is a good time to be investing in Bitcoin companies. But yeah, it's yet another milestone. We have an ETF which isn't cryptocurrency centric; it's Bitcoin centric. So we're narrowing down even further, aren't we, to eventually getting the ETF which just has Bitcoin, and then but yeah, it's very good and exciting news. Another milestone, and us marching into more of a Bitcoin friendly future.
Dan, Eve, there's been a lot of revolutions. They had a revolution during a revolution with a revolution. Will this company bring revolutions? Oh, Dan disappeared.
I pressed the wrong button. Like Wallace and Gromit's wrong trousers. But at least my video came on, and I have my trousers as well. So we're talking about
trousers.
Are we on this is the ETF, right? The
Time
ETF?
to get an ETF full of Bitcoin related stocks instead of buying stocks. It's too hard.
I think that the most exciting time for me in Bitcoin was actually when it was like the March ETF hype of 2017, and it was just like everyone was on the edge of their seats for it, and it wasn't going to happen, and it didn't happen. But it was, the hype around that time was really crazy. But what makes me laugh is Gensler is dubious about a Bitcoin ETF because of market manipulation, and yet all around the world, I mean, obviously it's not specifically the US, but there's still money laundering from banks going on and fines left, right, and centre. The most recent one is a UK bank, NatWest, laundering over 400 million of funds from I think it was one specific company, which is like a jeweler or something, like a real an old school jeweler of like 100-year-old sort of company. And they actually received, they're one of the ones that received a 45 billion pound payout from the 2008 crisis, bailout, which is savage. They didn't, they could have taken that opportunity, having fucked up like a bad bank, naughty bank, having to bail out 45 billion. It's not a small sum of money. And yet they're still at their terrible ways of letting people launder money whilst pointing fingers usually at Bitcoin being used for nefarious activities. The NatWest did come out and said, we deeply regret it. And they went on a bit of a rant about it. And it just made me think of that South Park episode with BP in the oil spill, where he's like, we're sorry. We're sorry. We're so sorry. That's that thing. But anyway, Progressive Canada, of course, Canada have got they've got a Bitcoin ETF, and I'm not sure how long that's been in for, but they seem to be ahead of the game, a bit progressive. So there are obviously rumors that there will be one passed soon of a US ETF, but they may not be Trudeau. Trudeau, Canada.
Prime Minister humor.
No, I'll get my coat.
Dan's right. There is a Canadian ETF, and nothing bad has happened. Josh Shigala, we're creeping closer and closer to an American Bitcoin ETF so that people could invest their stock market and retirement funds almost directly into Bitcoin. What do you think about this Bitcoin stocks ETF offering?
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is that we're getting further and further away from Bitcoin, and this is what this seems to be the modus operandi of the SEC, rather than actually regulating the space. It seems to me like they're trying to protect something else, because when Coinbase offered their 4% for their clients to be able to take their money out of their banks and put into Coinbase and earn 4%, using all these DeFi instruments that they use, the SEC did a full smackdown on them, because how dare Coinbase offer 4%? And it seems to me like if you have an ETF directly linked with Bitcoin, it just widens the black hole from the legacy system into the modern system. So by them allowing you to have an ETF of a company, a pool of companies that accept this weird thing, it seems to me like they're not there to actually protect consumers from investing in bad things, but rather protect what they feel is the legacy system from this modern system that's bubbling up from the ground up. And this is unfortunate. I think there's a lot of opportunity that's being missed out because the regulators are making the laws around what can and can't be invested in and used in the system. So I don't know. I mean, some would say that's their job. Others would say that they're doing their job badly. Some would say they're doing their job well. Who am I to say? But the fact of the matter is that we're getting further and further away from the crypto. And this, I feel, would have flown maybe a few years ago, but now it's so easy to invest in cryptocurrency or Bitcoin, especially, that it's sort of useless. I mean, there are certain mandates on companies or initial contracts written up that they aren't allowed to invest in strange instruments, and they are allowed to invest in ETFs. So that would allow these companies. But a lot of these companies have even rewritten their initial paperwork to allow certain investments. So as I say, yeah, it's good. People should be able to trade what they want and make their own risk analysis. It's really important that society allows risk analysis, to teach risk analysis, because really that's what's missing. That's why scams happen. That's why people fall for scams, because they're not educated enough. So this is what needs to happen: more education and less banning whole sloths of society, or sloths of society, from investing in things. Rather, let's educate what scams look like, so that when OneCoin or BitConnect comes along, people go, oh, okay, hang on, this and this is a red flag. I'm not going to invest in that. And this is what the SEC really should be doing, is educating.
She's got huge tracts of land. But let's build on what Josh is saying. Go to the exit question. Should the SEC allow ETFs in America, or should they continue protecting the investors from the potential damages of an ETF? Ben, Ark, are investors ready? Are the companies ready? Is their private storage, their security, are they ready?
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it. Yeah, it's ready. Everything's ready. Do it.
Dan, Eve, yes or no? Are they ready?
Do it. They're ready.
And Josh Agala?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. Do it. Just do it. I mean, everyone in the rest of the world's doing it. So what America, what are you doing? Come on.
There's lots of
join the lemmings.
There's lots of access to Bitcoin, but there's not access for an SEC approved ETF yet. But it would be cool if they did it. Moving on to issue 4, Curio cards. Just about this time last week, they had an auction at Christie's for an original set of Curio cards plus the 17B misprint. The auction sold for more than $1 million, with the prize going to Taylor Gehring, one of the co-founders of Ethereum. A very exciting auction and a very exciting project. Curio cards, NFTs from 2017. But now there's new Curio cards. That's right. Curio Cards Plus launched just yesterday with myself, some of the other co-founders of Curio Cards, and 3 of the original Curio card artists who have joined us to make new cards. There's new NFTs happening in the world. Josh Agala, what do you think about the relaunch of Curio cards and the incredible success of the original Curio cards at the Christie's auction?
Yeah, what I find fascinating is that, Curio cards have, for me, great value because they were the very first NFT on Ethereum, and in terms of a collectible, and so that to me is fascinating, and I see that there's this overhyped boom of these NFTs now. It's such a massive bubble, but there's certain things that I think are really, really important here, is that artists that have built a name, done the hard yards, really worked hard to build their brand, can start to allow their artwork to be traded. So that puts them aside from just someone creating something a million times with different variations and selling it. That stuff's getting boring. I think it'll move out of that realm very, very quickly. Things like the firsts will always be valuable, things like that. But I'm really excited that you guys that created the very first NFT on Ethereum are now adding to that collection. Some would say that that's, well, you're turning on the printers, but I don't feel so. I think there's like the first collection, and then there's, the second collection. So they're different in terms of the psychology of what people would deem as a collectible. So I think it's really, really nice that you guys are taking that thing and running with it, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the artists come up with.
It is pretty amazing to have them sold at Christie's and to have the first set and then now the second set. There are just so many more artists who could use promotion, and it's kind of like a magazine to help promote these artists, bringing on new artists as well as the original artists, and just in general making more NFTs because it's fun. It's why we got into this in the first place. Ben, Ark, your thoughts on Curio card NFTs and NFTs in general?
I wasn't here because I think one of the last shows I did, it was about to go to Christie's, and then I wasn't here for the episodes around Christie's. So I have absolutely, and I've also just been out of touch. Could have been busy moving and whatever else. Hence the new studio, by the way. So I have no idea how well they did at Christie's. Did they do really well, these Curio cards?
Well, they sold for $1 million. There was a handful of bidders. They were at the high end
Well,
of
the full collection.
the full collection. They were at the high end of the Christie's range of the expected sales. So they satisfied sales. They didn't overwhelm. But again, it's just completely crazy. Yeah, Ben, you've been gone a while since your friend's old startup project from 2017 sold at an impossible auction house for
Christie's.
an impossible price.
It's incredible. And I remember seeing those videos on YouTube because you were doing, and I watched maybe a couple of them, but I really like the fact that you're obviously promoting artists and you're giving them some sort of greater audience. But I think the most important thing is back then when clearly you and a few others started building this industry, this NFT industry, there just wasn't monetary reward there. It was you doing it for the love of it, and the fact that you could create scarcity of somebody's artwork and then have it in a tradable way. But not in a million years would you have considered, that those collections of cards would then be sold at Christie's for $1 million, which is the difference. Now everybody who's making these NFTs on these drag and drop NFT building programs, they're all doing it, thinking they're going to make a load of money, and some of them may, some of them probably won't. One of my neighbors was talking to me about NFTs the other day, and I thought, well, this is probably time to jump ship. But actually, things like video games and stuff, like the having things which are actually scarce and provably scarce is still huge. And just in our digitally native realm, which more and more of us spend our time, like, you need scarcity, and NFTs have barely scratched the sides, for what their potential is, and their actual potential value. And I think Curio cards, as part of the historical journey, and also such an interesting project as well, because they're encapsulating, they were, as with things like Rare Pepe as well, they were of their time, and they tell part of that story. I think they're going to have tremendous value, and it makes sense that I know that you personally want us to keep Curio cards going much longer than they did originally as a project. So it must be really nice for you to, now there is some sort of, momentum behind the project. More people know about it. It must be nice for you to be able to, resuscitate a project which you very much enjoyed working on. And then also, have it as perhaps a way of earning some sats and getting some income as well. But I had a look through the website, and it was great, and it was nice seeing some of those old pictures as well from the Bitcoin San Francisco meetups. And then I could see like why you're friends with someone like Rhett, because Rhett for me is just sort of something of a scammy kind of character, but obviously he had his hands in many pies. And he was in these San Francisco meetups, and he was working on interesting projects, as well as some more dubious projects such as the Curio card things as well. So yeah, it's great. It's good luck to you. It's incredible that they did so well at Christie's, and it's a brave new world.
Well, I want to echo what Ben and Josh said, where the Curio cards are kind of different than the generative art projects. It's not like a punk with a cigar or a punk with shades or he has green hair or whatever. They're a lot more like an artist print, where you can't afford the original. No one can really afford original art. But if the artist makes prints of it and they sign them and they number them like 1 of 100, sometimes, a normal person can afford that. And I think that's a really neat thing. And it's a connection to the artist. Like when I collect a signed book or something like that, I'm getting something that the artist touched. I'm getting a connection to them. And in the same way, these unique signatures that make up the NFTs are the connection to the artist. They are the signed book.
It'll become standard de facto, I imagine, that you'll walk through an art gallery in years to come, and there'll be the option to buy the painting or buy the print or buy the NFT. Like, it'll just be another option, to make that connection with the artist, like you say.
And it's amazing to have come this far, because when we tried to introduce it first, no one was interested. No one understood it. Even, we had kind of small sales yesterday. Gas prices are crazy. But when we originally launched it, we had no sales. We didn't have 20 people and a Discord of people chatting about it. We had nothing. So having anybody at all that thinks these are cool cards and wants to take a risk on them and wants to collect them is just very exciting. So it's a whole new landscape.
I mean, I'll be honest, I couldn't see it at all. And I remember seeing those videos and just thinking, you're off your head. Like, what's this thing? I didn't know you're into this. I know you're arty, but I didn't realize you're into this sort of world. It's the same with the Rare Pepe stuff. But I had a mate recently show me a Rare Pepe card, which they bought for, X amount of thousands of pounds. And now it's like a £900,000 almost £1 million Rare Pepe card. And at the time when they bought it for X amount of thousands of pounds, I was thinking, you're an idiot. What have you done? Why have you done that? I was like, how other people would speak to, about something like Bitcoin, for example. I was like that about NFTs. I was completely and utterly wrong. They've got a tremendous value and they're very important to our future society, I imagine.
Well, and back in the day, I even had to kind of hide that I was working on the project. Like I didn't want to promote it too much on the World Crypto Network, or I had to do it on the Mad Bitcoins, or I'd do it on the Curio Cards video channel itself, because I didn't want to piss off my hardcore Bitcoin maximalist partners at the time, like Tone and Jimmy and other people who would just hang you if you tried anything else in the system. And I also want to give a shout out again to Theo Goodman.
Theo Goodman, he was telling us for months, he was trying to indoctrinate us. Buy Rare Pepe cards.
He made speeches. He went around. He gave presentations. We had a thing on the Bitcoin group where every answer he tried to make it about Rare Pepe, which was a little much. We told him to stick it at the end of the show and to still promote it. Like we're not banning it like he says now, which is strange. But yeah, we're just like, not every question has to be the Rare Pepe. I love you, man, but like not every question. But he took that wrong and he's still mad at me on Twitter. And I wish he wasn't. And he also has very right-wing political views and likes to mock people online, which is his choice. You communicate how you want to communicate. But yeah, I miss Theo. I'm sorry we can't talk to him and that he's angry at us now. But I hope that he has enough Rare Pepes to buy an island. And I hope that buys him satisfaction and happiness. And I hope he bought the Rare Pepes. I hope this isn't one of those things, like, I don't want to mention the names, but some people support things early on and then they sell them because people convince them, and then it's sad when they succeed. So hopefully Theo has a thousands of Rare Pepes and very happy and selling the auctions. And again, he can give the same speech that he gave years ago, but now at huge conventions, and they'll love all the jokes. And we loved all the jokes. I loved his speeches at Essen and other places where I got to see Theo speak. But again, I wish Theo the best. He's angry at me. That happens.
I didn't know.
But yeah, he is. It's all on Twitter. He's like, he likes to get angry. I don't know. But Rare Pepes are cool. I always said they were cool. I was always like,
yeah, he did get a bit much every single week. Every single answer to every question was Rare Pepes. But in hindsight, he was probably trying to do us all a big favor in making us buy Rare Pepes.
It's another thing where the Bitcoin maximalism causes you sometimes to miss out on these opportunities. Yeah. I remember when we talked about Ethereum and the crowd sale, I'm sure I said it, and it doesn't matter. You say whatever you want. If you buy things, you buy things. But I said, maybe we should take a flyer on this Ethereum. Maybe we should say, well, maybe we're wrong and maybe it goes crazy. And I didn't do it. I took no flyers. But anyone that took a flyer on that crowd sale killed it. And the same if you bought Rare Pepes early and a lot of these other things. Sometimes you're rewarded for taking risks. And even if you're a maximalist and you like Bitcoin or whatever, you could still take a risk if you want. You could still like really love Bitcoin, but again, at the time they'll string you up for that. So Dan, Eve, your thoughts on Curio cards, the auction, and new Curio cards?
Well, it really is incredible that it reached Christie's, right? So that means that your picture on the cards, like in the 007 type, the outfit, right? Was it that one where you like, the suit? That's amazing. Yeah. Of course, a couple of them, isn't there? So
21 card with a Mad Bitcoins with a big mustache is in there too.
Yeah. Absolutely incredible. Like, what a victory as well for something that you put a lot of effort into, you and the team, and it took so long to reach fruition. And like Ben's saying, it's like one of those things where, like, you know, people were saying NFTs, the collectibles, you know, that, you know, I heard about initially, the first collectibles I heard about were the Rare Pepes on Counterparty. And I actually got involved in multiple other, I literally backed all the wrong horses, all the meme exchanges, the Kekdak, and all the shit that I went into all failed, unfortunately. But I knew there was something there. I knew there was something there. But no, absolutely incredible. And it's really cool that you're bringing it back as well and trying to not make it a big kind of money sweep, right? It's more about the art. It's more about the collectability and making it kind of the traditional, because you know, you've always been about the like baseball. You've loads of times you've mentioned like baseball collectors, and yeah, in you know, in my rap I talk about it like bag hodling philatelists, like a stamp collector, and because that's what these art pieces are. They're like, it's collecting stamps, it's collecting art, it's collecting a piece of a history. So yeah, I think it's absolutely incredible, and I think I said that it would go for the upper end. I think I did make my what's the word, prediction may have been in the multi-millions, but it was over 1 million, and that's incredible. So I'm absolutely chuffed. It's just it's again, it's another real world like leap into the real world, right? And art is a really difficult thing to break. You know, when you're competing with things like, you know, Mona Lisas and pistachios. No, that's probably no, that's a type of nut. Some art, whatever. I'm not really into my art, but when you're competing with, you know, mahogany desks from the 1300s and all sorts of random stuff like that, getting digitized like images in there in the form of NFTs is absolutely game changing, incredible. So yeah, absolutely well done.
It's not just images, you know, albums, songs, podcasts. It can be anything.
Yep.
It has been pretty incredible. And like you said, Dan, it's all about the artists. While we are launching Curio Plus with some of the original Curio card artists, the goal for me there is really to get to the new artists. And maybe we can group the new artists with a larger artist and a middle artist and a small artist and kind of do a pack that way and help all the artists at the same time. But if you're an artist out there and you have work, you can still make your NFTs, but you could also make a Curio card NFT, kind of like a magazine, a thing to promote you, like put a couple NFTs in the magazine, do your own NFTs. Everyone works together. So if you've got NFTs, join us in the Discord. We've got a link on the Mad Bitcoins Twitter account, and we'd love to have your art in the collection soon. So that's really what it's about. It's I wouldn't do it if we weren't doing that. You know, we don't need the cash grab. That's not really the thing. We want them to be valuable. We want them to be collectors and things. And we hopefully will get investors and we'll form a company, which is, again, always been transparent. Curio Cards has always been a company. It's always been a startup company. Rhett's a professional programmer, even though Ben said the other stuff, but he also is a professional and you got to pay him. And that takes a company. And if you want to have really nice stuff, and not to say that, you know, we've made the best launch, we're working on the webpage, we're working on the bundles, you know, we're trying to fix things, but you know, having that structure, having that corporation to support you is one of the big reasons why I think Larva Labs with CryptoPunks has advertisements in Times Square, and they have such a great community, and they have all the support and these really cool websites with, you know, and we have a good website too, but you know, they just have more and they have this structure. And I think Bored Ape Yacht Club, the same thing. So if you want to have a roadmap, you want to have a structure, you want to have new artists, I think it's a good project. But let's move on to the exit question. Josh mentioned it briefly. Other than digital collectibles, which I like, and like Dan said, they're like baseball cards, what other uses excite you for NFTs? Things like ticket stubs or access, special clubs, rewards for customers, receipts. Josh Shigala, go ahead.
Yeah, I think ticket sales are always a good one. There's been a bunch of startups that have tried and none of them have succeeded. But there's, you know, you guys tried in the early days, it was before the time. And there's this thing in startups, a lot of VCs that I've talked to over the years, you know, realize that sometimes projects are just too early. But I think the time's come for NFT ticket sales. The real problem there is the technology in terms of understanding. So when you get the NFT and understanding, because the great thing about that is that price discovery is something that has never really been a thing for the sale. The only thing that has price discovery, they try to ban. So scalpers are like this bad, evil, awful thing. But really, they're part of the price discovery mechanism of a concert. Now, you might think, oh, I'm just an evil capitalist for saying that tickets should be maybe costing more. But I'm not saying that at all. It's just that if you're an artist and you say, okay, my tickets I'm going to price them at X. I don't know how much people are willing to pay or how much, capacity, or sometimes the whole thing's sold out and I could have actually earned a little bit more and had a bigger show and I don't know, done a bit more and actually had price discovery if we allowed the secondary market to actually come and pick a price. And the great thing is with NFT ticket sales, you can continue earning every time a scalper sells that ticket. Maybe they sell it for cheaper because no one actually wanted it and you overpriced your tickets, or they might get more expensive, in which case you also get a cut as the original because the NFT follows the sales through. So I think that's a really important step in terms of price discovery for art once the world opens back up.
I've said many times about how Andreas told such a great story back in the day about how every kid on the playground would have their own coin, and there'd be Freddie coin and Joey coin and Johnny coin, and they could trade against each other. Freddie's more popular than Johnny. Joey has a party. It seems like NFTs might actually be those personal coins. Ben, Ark, what ideas about the future of NFTs excite you?
Little Joey shitcoin in the playground, shilling his bags. Video games, items in video games. I think that's fascinating. But currently what we've seen is with a lot of Bitcoin companies trying to build computer games around NFTs, and that's stupid. But as soon as, your Fortnite or your World of Warcraft or some other big popular game which has some sort of rare collectible things in it, then you can have some sort of actual ownership over those things. As soon as that happens, then that's gonna be great. But kids are gonna totally adopt it, and there'll be marketplaces, and there'll be trading weapons and whatever else on these marketplaces, and it'll be interesting to see. But I don't know whether or not I encourage that. I'm not sure, but I just remember, like something like CS:GO. I remember teaching kids, and they would spend a lot of money just getting these little boxes on CS:GO, and they'd open a box and get like a gun with some pattern on it. And then you could, even in CS:GO, you could like look at charts and look at their because I think you could sell the guns as well. You could trade them with each other, but their value always went down because they would just produce more and more of these things because the kids would just buy them. But if you could have something with some provable scarcity to it, I think that would make that experience a bit better. But whether or not I'd encourage that, I don't know, because I suppose a kind of a form of gambling, whatever, or speculation. But yeah, computer games, rare tokens in computer games.
Well, and the idea I really want on that one, and I'm going to keep saying it until somebody does it, but I want one game to steal the other game's assets. I want the game to say, oh, you can use that sword in that game. Well, now that sword equals this gun in this game. And this like pirating of the assets, and even things like old assets like CryptoPunks or Curio cards or even rare Pepes, like make it so that if you have those in the game, your spaceship flies faster.
Yeah, I mean, you may even have like a rare item in a game. Everybody sort of somehow elects to have value because that's how it works, isn't it? And then you may have like a spin-off game just based around how that item came into being or something, which would be kind of a fascinating concept. So Hal Finney, let's do my little rant again. When he was working for Mattel, he made a game in 1982, The Adventures of Tron, for the Atari. And on the blurb on the back, it says that Tron has to jump around in a digital world, I think collecting collectibles or something. So you imagine Hal Finney back in 1982 with his feet up on the table in Mattel thinking, collectibles, digital world, how are they going to be scarce? Because you just make more of them. How are we going to have them scarce? So I love this little piece of, I should probably NFT this. There we go.
And Hal wrote that email or that forum post or wherever we did talk about crypto trading cards, and he talked about this idea. And certainly
Really?
I was aware of that. I'm sure the Rare Pepe guys, the Spirit Spells of Genesis guys, everybody owes to Hal Finney.
Yeah.
Let's go to Dan Eve. Your thoughts on the future of NFTs, tickets, and beyond?
Yeah, I think the tickets is a really good idea, and the fact that artists they don't reap the rewards of tickets being sold on in the secondary market. So I think Josh hit the nail on the head there. That it's another way that artists are always kind of breaking out of the YouTube, breaking out of the Spotify services, trying to make more money from their producers and that. So I think it's a really good idea that they can actually get money back from when their tickets are being traded. So Raekwon Poet is asking Tom in the chat about how there's 3,000 serial numbered cards on sale at OpenSea. So where is the serial number? So are you able to give us a quick demo?
I can give you the best information that I have. So previously with the original Curio cards, we didn't have a serial number. I am aware of serial numbers and serializations in cards, but we couldn't have everything for those early cards. I also wanted to do packs and stuff like that, but we couldn't do it. With these new cards, I've talked to the technical people and they tell me that there are serial numbers, but they're concerned about people overvaluing them. So right now it's kind of like a random serial number. So if you buy it from the market, later the serial number will be revealed. There might be a technical way for you to determine which one of the cards rolled out of the machine first. It's up to you as a technologist to figure that out if you want to. But yeah, our goal is to do serial numbers. They're not currently as visible as I would like. If you compare OpenSea to Atomic Assets or Wax, Wax does a really good job of putting the serial number in the upper right-hand corner. We don't seem to have that on OpenSea. Could be a mistake. We are, kind of new to this in the modern era. We're doing our best. So maybe the next set of cards will have more visible serial numbers. But yeah, we're aware of it. We want them. I believe that they're there. But yeah, they're not being revealed now. I don't know how valuable that is to you. If that's the buy or sell decision for you, that's the best information I have. Dan, are there any other questions?
No, I think that's it. NFTs are pretty cool. I think there's a lot of scope in future, and I'm interested to see how it kind of all evolves.
Well, I'm excited too. I think one of the things to remember about this name OpenSea is that that's actually a whole concept of thought. And if you think about the NFTs, it really is an open sea. Curio cards are there, Rare Pepes are there, new Curio cards, CryptoPunks, all these things, and Ken Bozak NFTs. And there's plenty of room for more. I hope that Theo Goodman will make his own NFTs. I look forward to Theo Pepes or Bitcoin Potatoes or whatever they are. And I hope that everyone else who wants to make NFTs can make them too, because Ethereum NFTs are expensive. Gas fees are expensive. We did that for the new round of the Curio Cards Plus. I don't know if we're going to stick with that. I rolled up a Polygon NFT this morning. Very easy to do. Didn't have quite all the features I wanted, like bundles, but it was fun, and I was able to reward the audience, which was my goal. And again, anyone can do that. I'm not blocking anyone from doing that. I hope everyone does it, and I hope everyone enjoys the cards. It's a collectible. It's worth what someone will pay you for it, or it's worth what you believe its value is. If it's important to you, if you like the art, enjoy it. So, and I hope that artists will join the Discord and we can make some new cards. I think we're heading towards the end of the show. Still a good chance to give us a thumbs up, even if you're watching on the recorded version. Like, he'll never know if I give the thumbs up or not. He's not really watching me. Well, I am watching you. I can see through that camera. And if you push the thumbs up, I'm going to know about it on YouTube. And then, some guys won't visit you at your house, the thumbs up police. So, but we're running out of time. We need predictions or a story of the week. I know that Ben is ready with a prediction or a story of the week. It's been weeks and weeks, Ben. You've got a new shed there, a new backdrop. What's going on, Ben, with a prediction or a story of the week?
Not that much really. Sorry. I mean, yeah, moved house. That took up a lot of time, and then I was working on a couple of projects. Like I had the offline point of sale thing, which I'm just trying to finish up the tutorial for now. Actually, I did some workshops for that in Polis, and that was cool going there because I've never been there before, and I know you've been there. It's quite a building, isn't it? They've got the big conference halls, and they got the bordel downstairs, and everyone was so welcoming to me. They got this the bordel is this great hack space downstairs. So
what they've got a
yeah, it's funny because but no, they the downstairs in the parallel Polis, they've got a hack space. So for some reason they called it the bordel. They've got this big red bordel sign. You kind of feel a bit sleazy when you walk down the stairs to it, but then you walk in, it's just a bunch of dudes with beards on computers, so it's fine. It's fine. Unless that's what you're into, I suppose. Unless, but yeah, so that's about it really. Not much else. I'm glad to be back on the show. It's really fun to be back on the show. Thanks for having me. And I'm super stoked about the Curio card thing. That's just blowing my brain. So,
well, Ben, tell us more about the point of sale machine. I know in the past they had little cards that you could use at Paraleni Polis where you could pay with Bitcoin.
Oh, that was good. Yeah.
Do it with Lightning now. Tell the people about that.
That's cool. Yeah. So the Mario, one of the veterans in the Bordel hack space, they've got these payment NFC tags, which I haven't got with me actually, but they you wore around your neck, and then you could use to pay for things. Back in the day, you could pay in Bitcoin or in Litecoin if you didn't want to stand there at the coffee machine for 10 minutes because you're paying on chain. But now, obviously, we've got Lightning Network, and Mario, he used LNURL withdraw and LNURL pay. So you have two buttons on the tag. When you press the LNURL pay, it means you can go up to the ATM, put some cash in, and then press the LNURL withdraw, and it would actually fund your wallet. And then you've then got funds on your little thing, and then you could go up and pay for coffees and pay for beers just at the regular normal points of sale, which are actually made by General Bytes. It's a shame Martin's not here to show that. They don't sadly make them anymore, but these points of sales were originally made by General Bytes, because General Bytes have such excellent, remarkable aftercare and customer service. They've now worked in an update, so it has LNURL support, which is and can read by NFC these LNURLs. So a big shout out to General Bytes for that, because they made it possible. It was amazing to see the whole conference running on these little payment tags, which everyone had around their necks. People who I've respected for years, to see them paying for their coffees and beers, so the LNURL server, which is running behind all this stuff, was LNbits. So that was running in the background, and that was handling all the LNURL stuff for these tags. So I was kind of dorking out like the fact that our software was powering the thing which everyone was using to pay for the coffees and the beers, and they did a lot of volume. I personally did a lot of volume. I drank a lot of coffee, drank a lot of beer. So hopefully I'll have that tutorial out finished later today, and I'll post that on World Crypto Network. It's nice to produce some video stuff again, because I've done that for a while. It's always a balancing out between like making stuff and producing like content and whatever. But it's great to be back on the show as well. So thanks for having me.
See, you had a huge story of the week. The LNbits library of tools that you and Fiat Jeff and many others out there work to maintain and create was used by other people to interface with General Bytes' old point of sale machine, which did Bitcoin and Lightning, or Bitcoin and Litecoin, but now it does more. And all this interface, it worked. People were able to pay. Everyone at the conference, major deal, Ben, big deal. This is like when you did the video game machines in San Francisco, and people could pay to play video games with the Lightning Network. It's revolutionary work. People are going to recognize it. They're going to figure it out. But now we're going to Dan Eve, who seems to have something else going on. Dan, are you ready? Which camera should we go to here?
The mobile one. I think I've completely my MacBook's completely frozen. So unfortunately, I've you got a big close up of my hairy chest. Oh, that wasn't in the other one. So my story of the week is a bit more basic. Well, it's not basic. No. So every now and then, because I haven't been really good at although I went to New York Blockchain Days and rap there, I haven't really done much with my music. But every now and then, I get a bit of inspiration, because like Adam Back will just tweet me out of nowhere, and he'll say, "Oh, have you heard about this rap?" And so that my story of the week was just that my heart was warmed by Adam Back, tweeting about my rap, and yeah, that's my story of the week. So that's about all I've got to say about that. Thank you very much, Adam. If you're watching,
You need to
I will make some
NFT the man, and then somehow like work in the Adam Back recommendation.
Yes. Yeah. No, what I should maybe I'll like NFT each verse, and then do one of the whole. I don't know. I have to speak to someone who's an NFT person with music, because where did you even store that? That would cost $1 trillion on Bitcoin.
I know one customer you're gonna have, Adam Back.
That's true. Yeah, maybe I should put it on Rare Toshi.
Better put it on Liquid. He prefers Liquid.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Indeed. Sweet. So thank you very much, Adam.
It's very cool, Dan. And I just saw recently on our This Day in World Crypto Network History, thanks to DJ Booth and Marwi for doing the tweets on that. It was about 4 years ago today that we first went to, I don't remember, I think it was Riga, Latvia, to go to a conference, and we interviewed Adam Back with Max Hillebrand in the coat room at the conference, because we just set up there, and then everybody came through to get their coats, and we grabbed them for interviews. And Adam was so nice to us and so personable and just kind with his time and generous. And it was great to talk to him and to get his thoughts and opinions. And we've been really fortunate to interview him several times since. So shout out to Adam Back. Shout out to Paraleni Polis. I miss Europe and all our fun that we used to have. Josh Shigala, we're running out of time. Still a prediction or a story of the week for you. Go ahead.
So much happening that we're basically doing a lot of R&D on zero knowledge proofs and zero knowledge validities on the second layer to see if we can speed shit up there. This is really fascinating work, and it's interesting to run contracts on main chain and on layer 2 and have them talking to each other. This is really cool stuff. So that's something we're working on with the standard. But I'd just like the viewers at home to know that walking is always time well spent. Unplug your brain, get rid of your phone, go for a walk. It's really important for your own mental health. The other thing is buying acres of undeveloped land is the new flex. And get out there, build a farm, start farming, get off the grid, get into Bitcoin, get rid of plastics, and that's let the evolution begin.
Farming is the future from Josh. Well, thanks again to everybody for joining us. Be sure to give us a thumbs up and a subscribe down below. Check out Curio Cards Plus if you're a new artist, or if you have a friend that's an artist, wants to get started in NFTs. Head them our way. Come on down to the Discord. And shout out to Theo again. I hope he's doing well. I'd love to see him again if we ever travel again. But thanks so much to everybody for watching. Until next time,